Rivalry week pretty much boils down to the game. And that game is, of course, Michigan and Ohio State. Now, I'm going to talk about the games that happened, last Thursday, last Friday, because I wasn't able to talk about it on Saturday's pod. Obviously, I didn't have it. So I'm going to talk about it briefly. But you know how big a game is when we talk about the preparation for the game. And when we talk about, or the magnitude of a game when you hear the verbiage and the rhetoric that's spewed after the game, right? Michigan beat Ohio State 30-24. And it was a great game. It was a defensive game. There were some great offensive moments, obviously, to get to 30 and to 24. But ultimately, Michigan won. Now, Michigan didn't have Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. Of course, he was serving the third game of his 3-game suspension. And when we talk about rivalries, right, a lot of times people don't care about nothing else but that rivalry game. I feel that way sometimes when I look at Washington. I don't really care. I know Washington isn't a top franchise. I know Washington, at least at this point, isn't a top tier franchise. But I say, I don't care if we go 16-0 or 16 or 2-16. That 2 better be against the Cowboys. That's how fans feel. In college, that gets amplified. Michigan, one of the biggest reasons why Ohio State in recent history has dominated this rivalry is because of recruiting. Recruiting shapes college basketball, college sports, college football, college anything. You do not have a good program if you don't have good recruiting. At the end of the day, yes, players or coaches can think that they're important, which they are. Don't get me wrong. But if you can't get the players, then you're not going to thrive. You're not going to be good you're not going to be good. You're not going to be able to have a advantage. You're not going to be able to stay afloat competitively. And for the longest, Ohio State has been killing Michigan in recruiting. I mean, think about it. I know a lot of people don't think, when you think college sports and you think college football in general, the hope obviously is to go to the league. But there are some people that play that obviously don't have that luxury to be able to go. Imagine one of those, an offensive lineman from Michigan has to look over and you have Chase Young, you have Nick Bosa, you have to deal with that. And then you also have chemistry class the next day. You know what I'm saying? Recruiting for Ohio State has been great. You've also had Urban Meyer, and they've had a rich history, at least recent history, as far as getting a leg up on this rivalry. And you know how you know that this rivalry is huge and this rivalry is impactful? Michigan beat Ohio State, and Ryan Day is considered one of the best coaches. Actually, let me try. Ryan Day, right? He has one of the best records in college football right now. I outside of Michigan, he's like 51 and 1 or 54 and 1 or something like that. But he is, 1 and 2 in the last 3 games against Michigan. People are calling for his job, and there's a good shot that he might lose his job after this. Remember when Jim Harbaugh couldn't win the big game and they were trying to get him fired? Because it's like, we didn't bring you here to win 10, 11 games. We didn't bring you here to compete for a college championship. We brought you here to win the game. And that's how a lot of Michigan and Ohio State fans feel. While, yes, At the end of the day, everyone wants to win a national championship. Your goal is to win the game. That's bragging rights. That's the game. The same is kind of felt when we talk about college basketball with North Carolina and Duke. While yes, you want national championships, and of course Ohio State and Michigan won national championships, but yo, if you can't beat, you can beat Miami, you can beat Louisville, you can beat NC State, you can beat any team. If you can't beat Duke, what are you doing? And going back to Ohio State, Michigan, people are openly hoping that Ryan Day gets fired. A coach that has been incredible for Ohio State. They just haven't won. They've lost, the last 3, I think, games against Michigan. And Michigan and Ohio State are in a place they're not used to in recent memory. And that is Michigan is just flat out better than Ohio State. When we talk in almost every facet of the game. Now, yes, Ohio State has the best player right now out of both of them in Marvin Harrison Jr. But it's again, we're talking about recent history. It's been very rare to be on the Michigan side and you have the bigger players, you have the faster players, you have the better recruiting, you have the better coach. Again, all this matters in college. Hell, all this matters in sports in general. If you're playing and you got the biggest player, the fastest player, the best shooter, the best quarterback, you're going to have an advantage. And for the last few years, Michigan has been dominating Ohio State in recruiting. They've been dominating Ohio State in retaining players and the transfer portal. Like, you look, the numbers don't even tell the story. Kyle McCord had 271 yards. J.J. McCarthy only had 148, but he had the timely plays. And McCord also had 2 interceptions. Look, I don't think that Ohio State's trash. Of course, they were ranked second, and Michigan was third. And I don't think that Michigan is that much better, or I don't think Michigan is leaps and bounds better than Ohio State. But what I do think is people take the game very seriously, especially if you're a Michigan Ohio State fan. And you know that's the case because now people want Ohio State's head coach fired after losing, I think, 3 straight times against Michigan. Even though he has a winning record against anybody else in college football, I think they want him out. Shouts out to Michigan for beating Ohio State in the game. And it's very interesting, man. Ohio State losing and a lot of chaos happening during rivalry week. I mean, Alabama beat Auburn in the most crazy way possible. Oregon they're going to go against Washington in the Pac-12 championship on Friday. That's going to be a huge game. I think the winner of that obviously makes it to the college football playoffs. Jordan Travis hurting himself and out for the season. That's going to end. And, of course, Florida State having to play Louisville in the ACC championship. There's a lot of people hoping Louisville wins so they don't have to make a decision about Florida State. What happens with Texas if Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship and Texas wins the Big Ten? Like, what do they do? I know Paul Feinbaum was saying it, but this could be the first year where there's not an SEC team in the Final Four, and I think that will while it could happen, and honestly, it possibly should happen if Georgia loses, I just don't see how the committee. I don't see how college football will let that happen. I mean, it is widely known that the SEC is the best conference in football. But again, what do you do if Georgia loses to Alabama? Alabama lost to Texas. If Texas wins the Big Ten championship, like, what do you do? And then what happens if Oregon beats Washington? So I don't know, man. The committee, I think Sunday is going to be a huge day in college football, and it could be a historic day because this could be the first year where there's not an SEC team in the college football playoffs. Now, I honestly don't think that's going to happen, but I think that right now, I don't foresee it. I know Iowa has, I've obviously been better than expect, or been better than their team and better than their record, or not as good as their record, but I don't foresee them beating Michigan after, of course, Michigan gets Jim Harbaugh back, and they just right now you see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I do like what most of the players were saying after the Michigan game. They're pretty much saying, well, yeah, we beat Ohio State. Our goal is to win a national championship. So I don't think that there's going to be any slippage, any letdown against Iowa. So Sunday is going to be a very historic day. We'll talk about it a little bit again on Saturday's episode. But yeah, shouts out to Michigan for beating Ohio State. Oh, man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast, new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.